We'll begin as we try to get through our technology issues. All right. Well, welcome to our regular scheduled village board meeting on Monday, June 26th at 7 o'clock. If I can ask the clerk to please take the roll call.
Trustee Bachner.
Here.
Trustee Gillis.
Here.
Trustee Vasquez.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee O'Connell.
Here.
President Aducey.
Here. Okay. If I can ask you all please to stand so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any citizens comment? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, we got plenty. All right. Okay. Frank and Jen, we'll wait until your zoning comes up on the agenda. It's probably okay. Zoning for Philip, Ted, Furious. All right, Mark Zinni, Sheila Rafford Hill. Okay. All right. So it seems the best one would be Lewis. Lewis, if you can. Yeah, yes, please. I'm sorry. Yes, if you wouldn't mind. My apologies.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just curious, any updates on the construction at Lake and Lathrop? I live across the street, and our building continues to watch the low-speed construction project, so everybody's curious as to what the most recent developments are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I assume Denise is saying. Is Denise? Yeah.
I have some additional comments.
Yes, sure.
It's very disruptive. It's very subtle, but it's very disruptive. They don't do anything, but when they do, they stop traffic. If there's a cement, and I don't know if the police or somebody can be aware of when they're doing some heavier duty stuff. It's not as bad now because school is over, but it seemed like the cement trucks would be there right when the kids are, using the crossing guard and everything. So I wanted you guys to be aware of that. Even though there might be two guys working, it's unbelievably loud, whatever it is they're doing. And we just would like to see more progress as neighbors and everything. It's difficult to walk there. It just goes on and on and on. I thought it would be done by August. Good luck. But anyway, so I just wanted you to know my thoughts. Thank you.
Yep. Well, I'll let Matt. I mean, we do have a website that we try to update on information so that you can go to it at your leisure. It's on our website, but I'll let Matt kind of discuss that.
Sure. So I did get a update from the builder this afternoon. The update has not been posted on the website yet, but it will be later this evening. So it'll be available tomorrow morning in terms of the progress over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but duly noted with construction issues and where the construction's at. So, I think it's Sheila. Sheila, you're Sheila Rafford Hill.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How you doing?
We just said some words that are kind of important, and they frame my comments on Juneteenth. We did the Pledge of Allegiance, and at the end we said, the end of it goes, with liberty and justice for all. Now, you've said those words many times, but when it comes to celebrating Juneteenth, they have a special meaning. The emphasis being liberty and justice for all. Because on that date, in 1865, it was discovered that people in the state of Texas weren't free, even though they had been free 2 years before. And so some troops went down and gave the order, and other troops enforced the order, and we call that the second Independence Day. And so we celebrated here in River Forest, and this particular year, our president of the Board of Trustees was there to invite and invite our dignitaries to stand and be recognized, and appreciated the work that had gone into the work of the ad hoc committee that created this Juneteenth event. I see that near you, you have a book. And the name of that book by Annette Gordon Reed is On Juneteenth. Now, all of you know I'm a professor, but I'm not going to give you any homework. But if you would like to just take a look at that book, it's great, it's short, and it'll tell you something about Juneteenth that will intrigue you, so that this year you can start thinking about our next Juneteenth ceremony, our next Juneteenth event, and you can come and join us. So I'm here to thank the village for its wonderful support, for some money so we could buy some refreshments and those books, the people who put together the traveling museum, which was a big hit, our great vendors, minority, women-owned businesses who came, and I particularly want to thank the Board of Trustees and those trustees who were able to fit us into the schedule. Our MC, Trustee Johnson, our cheerleader, Trustee Bachner, our workaholic, Trustee Brennan, and our great speech maker, Trustee and President Aducci. So thank you all, and I hope to see you at our next Juneteenth event.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, that I think concludes the just general public comments, and then most of them are related to the zoning. So if you don't mind, we'll bring you up when your zoning variance is up. It's probably the most important if you guys, unless you're in a hurry. But if you're not, then sit tight. We'll get to that piece soon. Okay, so now up it's the elected officials and comments, and I'd like to start with maybe Trustee Bachner. Do you mind?
I don't mind at all. I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. So as we begin, we are mindful that we hold these meetings on land that was once and still inhabited by Indigenous people, including the Ojibwa, the Chippewa, Menominee, Potawatomi nations, and more. We will remember our nation's history and honor the Native people as stewards of this land that was once colonized, and that River Forest continues to be a place many people from diverse backgrounds live and gather. The Juneteenth event was really wonderful. I was very excited about how many people showed up, and really want to thank all the organizers for all the wonderful work that they did, and all the vendors that came and donated time and energy and supplies and ice cream and all sorts of good stuff. Was really proud of the Girl Scout troop who raised the flag, and the speakers definitely lit a fire in me to go forth and do, what we can around equity and around the work of DEI. So thank you for all of that. Also, June is Pride Month, and I have had a lot of pride this month. There's a lot of things going on in the area. I'm so happy that there were so many things being represented across all the different neighborhoods. We had in Forest Park their Forest Park Library on June 13th had a event called Ask a Queer Neighbor, which I was very happy to be invited to attend and speak at the panel. There was a Forest Park Pride Fest that had 8 amazing drag queens. And I don't know how they did what they did on a concrete parking lot as a stage, but it was wonderful. And again, I think that probably had maybe about twice as many people as it did last year. So glad that people are really taking advantage of these opportunities. As well, I attended the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce Pride event this weekend, and over at Kettle Strings and Urban Village on Sunday. Urban Village Church had a family pride event that was outdoors and that was equally as wonderful. So really just happy about everybody really working and realizing the importance of events like these.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Bachner. Trustee Gillis?
Sure. Hello. I attended the Greentown Conference, which was on Thursday, June 22nd, along with you, Kathy, Matt, Seth, and others. It was a really great conference. Over 400 people attended. It was focused on sustainability and equity across all C4 neighborhoods. Kathy did a great job on a panel in the morning. Matt did a great job. I heard he was a star, although I was not in your breakout session. My husband was and said it was really a great one, focused on active transportation for local communities. I really look forward to it being done again as a first-year event. I thought it was really pretty magnificent. Kudos to Triton for kicking us off, for giving us the space, and for all of the many people that attended. I walked away, with a lot of great ideas on what we need to do as an area to be sustainability. It's not good enough for us to just have great practices in our own backyard. The entire area needs to do a good job in order for it truly to work. And with the end goal being reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and hint, it's all about electrification. Mm-hmm. Bye.
We know that. Great, thank you, Lisa.
Good.
Trustee
Just one item. Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind our next board meeting is until July the 10th. So I want to wish everybody a great Independence Day, and please be safe. Okay, that's it.
Okay, great. Clerk?
Nothing new to add, thanks.
Got a white screen. I'm gonna work on that. Better technology, huh? Trustee Brennan? I think you got to press the button. Yeah, we got new.
I don't know how. There, now it lights up more.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. It does feel like we haven't been here in a while.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back and to see everybody. As Erica said, there's been a lot going on with Pride Month and celebrating Juneteenth. And I wanted to thank everyone who organized the raising of the Pride flag here at Village Hall earlier in the month. And then also acknowledge as Sheila and Erica said, the beautiful flag raising for Juneteenth that we had here at the library in conjunction with the village. Thank Matt again for his support with that. Kathy for speaking, Ken for emceeing, Sheila for doing a fabulous presentation. I don't know if she's still here. And the whole fire department led by Chief Gardner, who helped with the actual flag raising. One difference between this year and last year is that we had so many more, Erica, as you mentioned, so many more students involved, and that was one of our goals. We had a whole Girl Scout troop, and then with Ken's help, we got student participation from Trinity, OPRF, and Fenwick, which was awesome. Yeah. So looking forward to doing that again next year. And then I also worked with the Traveling Juneteenth Museum, helping to set that up at a couple other events this year, the Juneteenth and Wellness Festival at Rush Oak Park. They had a Juneteenth event at the River Edge Hospital, and at Dominican University's Juneteenth event also. And lastly, I just wanted to ask, as I pretty much always do, did we invite Lake and Lathrop to come to our meeting? We have a couple residents who specifically have asked for an update on the project with particular questions about safety of the sidewalks and questions about the progress. As we all have those questions too, but we hear from residents tonight. So if you could just let us know, Matt.
Yes, I have invited Sedgwick and Lake and Lathrop and asked for an update as well, and that was provided this evening.
Yeah, but
About-
we didn't ask him to come tonight. No. Just an update. Right.
I believe
Which is
I
fine.
always have that
Yeah.
as a standing
Right.
invite
They don't
for.
come, right, but-
Well,
for that.
I would ask that we do ask them to come in person. They're a partner with us in this project. I specifically am asking that we invite them to come to our village board
I
meeting.
think we have.
And that's why that's what I asked again
Yeah.
tonight.
Correct, we have. I would have to double check on my last email last week about specifically coming to this meeting, but I have almost every time before that.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I'll just keep mine brief. I had the opportunity, as we mentioned, to participate in both the Pride flag raising and the Juneteenth flag raising, and I'm just happy to see so much diversity in our community. There's a lot more to come. The committee is doing major things, so that's be on the lookout for that. And just want to thank everyone that participated in both events. It's something that this community can really benefit from. Just being surrounded by a diverse culture just raises everyone's level, and I just appreciate this community for participating in that. And that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Bob, just your comment?
Thank you. Again, I apologize for missing the last meeting, but I did want to extend my personal thanks for everyone who worked on the Memorial Day Parade. I also wanted to do a shout out to Matt on Madison Street. It's coming down. There's no dust flying. Seems like everybody's okay with it, and hopefully that'll be wrapped up shortly, I think. So congratulations to that. And then just a friendly reminder, it's vehicle sticker time, so please make sure you get over here and get your vehicle stickers.
I did want to just
Yeah.
add to mine because
Yeah.
I can't believe I was thinking that we had already had a board meeting because I'm so used to
Yeah,
2
no
weeks.
worries.
But I did want to thank everybody who was involved in the Pride flag raising here at the Village Hall and for the coordination between the school district, the village itself, and also the township of River Forest. There were over 350 people who came to that flag raising, and then the Pride and Inclusive parade that went around Lincoln School. And unfortunately, I was not able to attend. I got live streams from friends because I was sick. So I spent my time during that counting how many people were there from photos and things. So it was really wonderful to, and thank you to the village staff and to everyone involved.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it has been a little over 30 days or a good month that since we last met, so no worries. Yeah, I just I want to start off with the Juneteenth flag raising. I was honored and privileged to be part of it. Sheila has been at our podium, I can't umpteen times, talking about the importance of this, and there is no doubt as I look across all the trustees and the clerk and the staff that we are committed, completely committed to that event and make it bigger and better. And it was a proud moment, I think, for our village to be part of that. And I want to thank Trustee Johnson for emceeing, of course, Trustee Brennan, who I think played quarterback on all of it, which it came off, without a hitch. So thank you so much for all your efforts, Katie, and Ken, you being part of it, and of course Erica being part of it. I know it's very hard because during the day for everybody to show up, but I do know everybody around this table is committed to that event and making it bigger and better next year. So thank you, Sheila. And this book is awesome. You gave a great. She's a great professor. She gave a great explanation of what happened back in 1865. So, and 2 years before that. So, thank you. I want to just echo what Lisa said, not necessarily about me, but Greentown. Greentown was a smashing hit. Again, not everyone can go because it's during the day, but I would say if you're into climate change and you're into environmental justice and equity, next year you got to go. This is really something to see. We had well over 500 people in attendance, but what was so amazing is that we had over 100 youth in attendance, and they gave three young adults gave speeches around why youth is important in the effort to manage climate change. And it was just very moving. I don't know what else to say. That's just the word that comes to mind. So Greentown was great. So thank you, Lisa, for being there, and Rick. Again, it's if you can next year, please attend. I also had the opportunity to accept an award on behalf of the Village of River Forest and our C4 group, which is called Cross Community Climate Collaborative, which was a creation that Vicki Skaman, the president of Oak Park, Katrina Thompson, the mayor of Broadview, and myself got together, and we already won an award from the Mayor's U.S. Conference of Mayors. The American Beverage Foundation gave $125,000 to the C4 group. And we did it again, although this was a slightly smaller one. It's $15,000, but we were the lead. River Forest was the lead recipient, and they really did a very nice write-up on River Forest and our not only our involvement with C4, but our commitment to climate change. So we'll post this on our website somehow, maybe Matt, and you get a chance, get up there and read it. It's really a cool award. Very proud to accept it on behalf of the village. I also attended a cocktail, the reception at Exit Strategy for the Leadership Lab, which is a project under the Oak Park River Forest Community Foundation. I think all of you are alumni. I think most of you. It's a great project, and it helps provide, thought leadership to leaders. And most of our trustees and myself actually led Leadership Lab at one point in time. And it's a wonderful a group of people that get together and, learn, I think, things that are real interesting for thought leadership. So, and then I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our wonderful staff, our chief of police, all of our staff, Rosie, Jeff, Tom, everybody that drove cars, Trish, that drove cars, rolled up those crazy reusable, bags. I know you did 1,000 of them, so I can't tell you. All of us are so appreciative. It was a ton of fun. Our residents love it. That's the biggest event we have in the whole year, and you made it really, really special. So thank you. And of course, it was led by Matt. And I want to also echo what Bob just said about managing the Madison. I think it's going very well, and I want to thank Matt for it's a lot of work. We threw him in as a new administrator, and he's doing an awesome job. So, so thank you, Bob, for mentioning that too. So that's all I have. So we'll go ahead and get work done. How about that? Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And if I can please get a motion and a second to move consent agenda items A through J.
I'd like to make a motion, please. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through J.
Okay, very good. Any comments? You said second, right? Yes.
Yeah, I was just kidding.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to please read each of those items and then take the vote.
Consent agenda item A, Village Board of Trustee meeting minutes, May 22nd, 2023. B, Village Board of Trustee executive session minutes, May 22nd, 2023. Financial report, May 2023. Accounts payable, May 2023, $2,487,070.06. E, Administration Department Report. F, Monthly Department Reports. G, Water Main Design Contract, Gewalt Hamilton Associates, $24,436. H, Intergovernmental Agreement, IDOT, North Avenue Improvements. I, Fiscal Year 2024 Annual Operating and Capital Budget Amendment Ordinance. J, Approval of a Contract Amendment with Vera Mobility. Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to recommendations of boards, commissions, and committees. So that was pretty fast. So I guess Mark do you want to, well, first of all, let
need a
me
motion?
do a motion and then we'll second it and then ask the Mark and maybe the residents if they're here to come to the podium. Okay, so if I can get a motion.
Motion.
Yep.
Go ahead. Okay. Move to approve an ordinance granting the required variations to sections 10-8-7, 10-9-5, and 10-9-7 of the zoning code at 7616 Vine Street.
Second.
Okay, great. Mark, do you want to say anything, or is this pretty straightforward, or regarding the variance, or is there any questions that the trustees have? Mark is the architect, developer.
Actually,
Extraordinaire.
I'm just here to answer any questions if you wanted any clarification, and so is Felipe, the resident.
Okay, great. Hi, Felipe. All right, yeah, is there any questions do you want Mark to go through anything, or? Doesn't sound like, sounds like it's pretty straightforward. All right, super.
Actually, I
Yep.
do have a question. I have a question on with regard to what sort of water mitigation will be done, given that the request is for a larger footprint than.
Actually, we're not
Is allowed.
changing the footprint at all.
You're
It's an
not?
existing footprint to remain.
Okay.
And the footprint does not exceed the permitted site coverage
Okay.
by the village. So we're not increasing the footprint at all.
Huh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong one. Thank you for that. I appreciate the clarification.
All right, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Felipe. Okay, I'm hearing no other further questions. I'll ask the clerk to take the vote on this.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have item 7B. If I can get a motion in a second, and then we have a few residents here, I think, on it. So can I get a motion? This is B, 7B.
7B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting the requested variations to sections 10-9-7, 10-9-5, and 10-9-6 of the zoning code at 7960 Chicago Avenue.
Second.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Frank or Jen, I mean, is there anything you want to? Just Q&A. Yeah, okay, just Q&A. Okay, I assume the trustees have read the zoning variances. If there's any questions you have of the residents, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Thanks for being here. In the packet, I didn't see that there was a letter from any of your surrounding neighbors who'd be impacted by this. Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, I've spoken to all my immediate neighbors to the east, north, and west. I think they're all generally okay with the project. We had some discussion with the neighbor to the north about some of the specifics, and ultimately they're okay with it as well.
Yeah, but there's no letter in the packet or to the ZBA.
Correct. Yeah,
about
they
that?
did not opt to write a letter.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that it's the neighbor to the north that's going to be the most impacted by reducing the setback for the garage. There's a couple water downspouts right there that are going to be right at their property line, and looks to me to be very close to their home.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. Regarding the downspouts, it's not in the variances, but we're putting in a storm sewer as part of this project. So all the downspouts will be tied into that, and that will drain out to the front through I guess, sorry, I'm not a civil engineer expert, but some sort of effluent to the front there. But yeah, great point about the stormwater. That will be tied in. The specifics that we discussed with that neighbor to the north is that we're going to construct the garage out of brick to reduce, potential maintenance, because it is going to be pretty tight between the garage and the fence. And we're also looking at the fence and anything we can do to shore that up to basically minimize needing to go back there and do any sort of maintenance. So those are the specifics we discussed with them, and I think we have pretty good alignment with them at this point.
Thanks.
Yep.
And I also have a question, I think, for Matt. The ZBA on this one included all 3 variances in one vote, and the vote was 5-2. Chairman Martin and Commissioner Lucchese voted no. And there's nothing in the notes that explains why, so I tried to go back to hear the audio to listen to it, but the audio is not on the village website, so I couldn't avail myself of that.
Well, I'm sorry that the audio wasn't on there. That was an oversight. In terms of the reasoning, I was not at the meeting. Deputy Clerk Masello was. I think that if I remember correctly, with discussions with building official Raditz, I don't think it was specific. I mean, obviously it is specific because it was the case, but I know Commissioner Lucchese just, I think, simply didn't like how close it was to the neighboring yard.
So it was for that variance because there were 3 and you couldn't tell which one. I guess they voted no on all 3.
Correct. Yeah, by that motion, which they were able to do, the board split up the other ones as you mentioned. So that was their decision at the time to deny all 3, or to recommend denial of the 3.
Gotcha.
Those 2.
Yeah. Thanks.
I guess I'm concerned as well about that setback and how close it is. It seems from the photo that there is another structure very close to that fence. It would be nice to know and have in these images what kind of fence is going to be put there. I'm really concerned about fire. That's something that I just always, when I'm thinking about these, is something that I'm concerned with. So I want to ask the fire chief. I don't know if you've seen this, but a setback where it's essentially 1.5 feet. Not even the roof. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Looking at the findings of facts on this. Any other questions for the residents? Okay.
I guess I would say on this one for me, I would prefer if it was broken out into 3 votes on the 3 different variances, because I have a concern about the back lot setback, and the fact that we don't have a note from the neighbors saying that they're okay with that variance that impacts them. I do understand that, you spoke with them, but it would be really helpful to have seen that something from them that said that. So I think I would be inclined to vote no on that one, but yes on the other 2.
Well, it's up to.
Yeah. So it's drafted as one ordinance, and so I think the better way to do it and establish the record would be to vote on the ordinance, and then Trustee Brennan, you could vote no, but indicate the reason you would have supported 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
Just because of how it's in one ordinance.
I understand.
So.
Thank you.
Would it be helpful if I gave a little bit of context on why we're pushing the garage to the north?
Well, I did see that you wanted to have space so cars could turn around, and
Yeah,
I understand
exactly.
that we
Okay.
all struggle with backing out of our driveways and not looking carefully at the sidewalks, and then who's coming the street. I saw that,
Okay.
and I understood that, but nonetheless, it seemed to me that it seemed like it's really impacting that neighbor to the north, and I didn't see anything from them saying that they were okay with it.
Did they show up at all to the zoning board?
No.
hearings?
No, there were no comments during the public hearing.
I don't know what else we can do. Can only post it and ask them to come. If they don't come, they don't come. All right, so the ordinances, then we're going to do 3 of them. Okay, So any further questions?
Well,
Yep.
it would just be one.
I mean, one of them. Excuse me. All three of them is what I meant to say. Okay. Okay. Then I'd ask please, the clerk to take the vote on this.
Trustee Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell,
Yes.
Trustee Bachner,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez,
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
I'm voting no because of the rear yard setback issue.
All right. So you're done? Yep. It passed. So good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll go on to the 7C. This is 559. So if I can get a motion in a second, and then we'll ask the residents to the podium.
Okay, I move to approve an ordinance granting the requested variation to section 10-9-6 and 10-9-7 of the zoning ordinance at 559 Ashland.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? We've got the residents here, right? Cheryl and Paul? Yes. So if anybody, I'm sure you all looked at the zoning variance. If there's any questions, they're here to answer them. Sounds like they don't have any questions. All right. Anything you'd like to say? No. Yeah, questions and want approval. I get that. All right. So okay, then I'd ask the clerk to take the vote, please.
Trustee O'Connell,
Yes.
Trustee Bachner,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez,
Yes.
Trustee Brennan,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, very good. It passed. Congratulations. All righty. So now we're going on to the next on the Sustainability Commission. So this is a resolution supporting Senate Bill 58.
Make a motion to approve a resolution in support of Senate Bill 58 and further legislation reducing or eliminating the use of polystyrene foamware, foodware.
Legislation.
Second.
Great. Right. So this is great. There is already a House bill that got passed that prohibits, and maybe Lisa, you probably know this better than I do, but prohibits the state agencies from using styrofoam. But it's where it's limited to. There's also now a Senate Bill 58 that hasn't passed. I think it passed the House, not the Senate yet, but we expect it to pass the Senate, hopefully in veto session. Right. And if it does, then that would be prohibiting styrofoam across the state, which would be. Meanwhile, our Sustainability Commission is looking at maybe Lisa. I don't know who was at that meeting. Maybe it was Luke or.
No, Seth was at that meeting, but the Sustainability Commission is very interested in exploring a similar prohibition. So they just wanted to kind of follow the same engagement that the single-use foodware ban did to let the business owners know and get some feedback before making a recommendation to the village board.
Of course. Yeah, and I just we were aware of the Senate bill. We know the House bill got passed. We were all aware of it. So, I mean, if Senate Bill 58 gets passed this year, then that, takes care of what we need to do.
Actually, that bill relates to state agencies and departments. It doesn't relate to anything that happens in River Forest necessarily.
No,
so Senate Bill 58
I got to get it up. Okay.
deals with state agencies and departments, things like the state fair, universities.
And it's the verse. It's a House bill. This is the state bill. I don't have it in front of me. I knew it all.
This resolution deals with SB 58, and that only relates to.
Yeah, correct. And there's also, that was the reason for including that second half of the further legislation to limit that, to capture other bills that are out there. This one was just recently delivered to the governor's desk and attracted some attention. So that was the purpose of including in support of that, even though it might not apply to the village per se. It's at least a step that is progressing.
I missed this because I think we need to have a resolution supporting the House bill. That is what I think we need to stand behind. So, my fault that I didn't catch that. Okay. The Senate bill is already passed. That's what I thought when I started reading that.
The Senate bill is on Pritzker's desk.
Right, it's already
so
passed. So it's the House bill that it has passed the House, but not the Senate. So that's the one that we want a resolution in support of. Right, this, of course, we support that because it's already passed. So I mean, we could keep this, but I'd like to see us bring back.
Understood. Yes, we'll have that ready for July 10th.
I'm sorry that I didn't catch that
Or
today.
could we amend this so it just say slash
Right.
HB?
Yeah, we
Senate
need
bill?
that. Let me get that.
Do you have the House bill?
Do you have
number?
that House
What
bill
is
up?
the House bill number
It should
that
be
you're
like
referring to?
Right.
Oh, it's a House bill that is banning styrofoam.
Well, the original House bill was HB 2376, but Harmon didn't pass that. He
Right,
passed a
the
more.
Senate didn't. The
So
House
are you
did.
talking about HB 2376?
Yeah, if that's it, I've got to look it up. I haven't memorized it. But is that the one that?
Well, I'm not comfortable voting on it unless we know what we're supporting. But HB 2376 was the original bill, and then they only passed a very watered down version that only dealt with state agencies.
No, we know that, Katie. That's what this Senate bill is. So what? There's a House bill there that did not go to the Senate, right?
2376. Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
2376. Okay, that we support that. I think because the Senate's going to take that up. We believe in the veto session.
So I have one proposed revision to this resolution, if we pass it, and then I also have a question for Lance, if I could. The proposed revision that I have to this resolution is in the fourth whereas clause, and it relates to the harm that polystyrene foam products have, not just on the environment, but to human health as well. And I think it's important to include that in here. We just say, we just talk about the harm that polystyrene foam products have on the environment, but it's also a known carcinogen for humans. So I would ask that we revise that and add the words "and health" after environment in the fourth whereas clause.
Sure.
I would add human health. I
Yeah.
think would be a better clarification than just health.
I'm fine either way. It impacts animals as well, but I'm fine either way
Well,
with
just
that.
based on the way you said it. Otherwise, yeah. I
Okay.
was thinking because health includes those kind of environmental things that we're talking about, and your point was to get a little more specific.
Yeah,
so.
thank you for drilling down on that. And then the other question that I have for you, Lance, is there anything that keeps River Forest from passing a polystyrene ban similar to what Oak Park passed?
Well, so the only thing that would prohibit it is the fact that we are not home rule, and Oak Park is. But having said that, the municipal code does give police and health protection powers to municipalities. And so if you were interested in that, I'd want to take a quick look at it. There are a couple different aspects of it that need to be looked at.
I would just. I know, and Lisa, you might want to speak here. And the only reason I asked, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but is to say that that's what the Sustainability Commission, and Seth is not here, which is what they are looking at, right, Matt?
But wouldn't they need our counselors' input as to whether we can pass that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's what they work. Lance would.
Yeah, so the answer to the question is, I think we can, but there is a difference between us and Oak Park, and that would need to be fleshed out and looked at just to make sure that we are on solid ground. That's all.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
That's
And I guess I would ask that we do that on behalf of the Sustainability Commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
They're already doing it.
They're
That's what
already
I'm saying.
looking at it. And the one thing I would just add, and this has nothing to do with this conversation, but the one thing we have to start working on is enforcement. And I know we don't want to use a stick. We want to use a carrot to get, kind of all the local businesses to comply. And so I think they do need our help to, ensure compliance with the single-use plastics, as well as to whatever else we might ask them to do, because it is a burden to many.
Yeah, and I think it's an advantage for River Forest to that Oak Park has already passed it, and they're our neighbor, and we shop. You know, there's a lot of intermingling between our shopping and if the businesses, and there are many more commercial businesses that this impacts in Oak Park than it does in River Forest, and if those businesses are already starting to find the ways to comply and to encourage the availability of more, non-poly options, then I think it's going to be easier for the fewer River Forest businesses to also find those options.
Yeah, I think we all agree. In fact, the wheels are rolling. So just to be clear that the Sustainability Commission is, hello, welcome. Yeah, very good. Thank you for being here. We'll be looking at it. And of course, we'll be talking to our legal counsel to ensure that, what we can do legally or not. But the other piece is what we were just debating is that the House Bill 2376 is to really encourage the Senate to pass that, because that would cover all non-home rule communities, including home rule. And you're right, Katie, Oak Park passed it just like we passed the food one before they did, right? Where the plastic foodware, where we passed it first. So we all have to work together, and we are doing that.
That was going to be my question, is what's the difference to where we were able to pass that as a ordinance and not the polystyrene?
It's a great question. I'll let Lance, but it's...
State that question again.
Excuse me. So why were we able to pass a ban on...
We didn't ban it.
Or
we didn't ban
don't
it.
the restaurants and everybody have to ask, basically, if you want the single-use plastics versus this ban.
Yeah, well,
is it because it's a ban? Is that the difference? Or
No, it's the same kind of analysis. The only issue is Dylan's rule. We need to point to a specific statutory authority to enter that area. And I do think we have it, but I mean, the question was just posed that Oak Park did it. Can we do it? And the answer is probably, because I think it relates to police power and protecting health, welfare, and safety as a non-home rule.
is that what we used for the single-use plastics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We didn't ban it. It was just, we didn't ban it. We request, it was by request.
Yeah, understood.
Right.
Exactly.
And,
So, I mean, I think that's...
But it's the same, it comes
Right.
from the same group of powers.
Yep.
It's
I hope HB 2376 gets passed. 'Cause then
So what are we
covers
doing
us.
here? So there was a
So-
motion and a second
Yeah.
to something that's already been
Yeah.
done. So are we pulling this?
No,
Well-
I think
Well,
that,
I think we could
Yeah.
just add the language
Right.
human health to the fourth
Right.
whereas, and then come back on July 10th with that additional resolution in support of that House bill.
Okay.
If I understand the
Yeah.
direction.
and then just to sort of complete the analysis, what would happen if ultimately the state law became law, the House bill, then the state would have preempted the field, and so we wouldn't be regulating there anyway. That's another way for a state to preempt. For instance, if they pass a minimum wage law, for example, we can't, even home rule or not, you can't start passing your own because they've taken over the field. It's called field preemption.
We know that. Okay. I think, is that clear, Bob? No. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say. So the issue is, are we going to wait till we actually got the final bill on this House bill?
No, I
No,
think
no. So I
Okay.
think Matt had pointed out that there is some language in this resolution that does point out that going beyond Senate Bill 58, and then Trustee Brennan added the suggested language to protect not only the environment but human health. And then I think the idea is then to bring back a second resolution to pin down exactly what's pending with the House bill that would really get into the ban of it all and pass a second resolution. I think that's the way it was going.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry for the confusion. So I think we got that cleared.
So it would be appropriate at this point for the original movement to amend the motion to include Trustee Brennan's modification, adding those words after environment.
Yeah.
In the fourth whereas.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the fourth whereas clause, correct.
So what am I doing?
So are you amending?
I'm agreeing to the
Yeah,
amendment.
so do you
You're
want
seconding
amended?
the amendment.
Okay, agreed.
I don't
agree
think
to the
it's a
amendment.
major issue.
No.
No, it is
Right.
not major.
Okay. Who seconded? Who seconded?
Oh, I
Second.
thought you were saying. No.
Okay. Erica said, Bob said, and Erica said yes. So
Okay.
that is what's on the table.
Okay.
So if we can get a vote on that.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. All right. Somehow I keep getting dropped off here. My Dropbox. Sorry. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna figure out that why it keeps dropping. All right. Let's move on to 7 a.m. Mine keeps dropping. I can't keep my. Either I got to get a hard copy or. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Couldn't get to that resolution. All right, so let's just go move on with board commissions and committee appointments.
Okay.
Okay, so if I can get a second, a
No,
motion and a
first.
second, and then I will kind of go through the names.
Okay. Motion to consent to the village president's board and commission appointments for items number 7E.1 through 7E.9 effective May 1st, 2021.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, great. All right, so on
2021.
Huh?
The motion, it's stating May 1st, 2021.
Yeah, that should read
Three.
May 1st, 2023.
20.
Thank you, Trustee O'Connell.
it was basically something
in the past. Retroactive.
Exactly.
That's what I assumed as well.
No, but is it?
Do I have to do it again now?
Yeah.
no.
All right,
I-
ready?
No, you
I'll,
can
I'll do it even better the second time. Ready? Motion to consent to the village president's board and commission appointments for items number 7E.1 through 7E.9 effective May 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Good, Bob. Good catch.
Second.
Who
Second. I'll
seconded?
second.
Oh, I thought Bob did. You were just laughing.
I was laughing that you were trying to second before you made a motion.
Yeah, I was trying to jump right into it.
Cart before the horse.
Right. All right. So, okay. So I can go through each one of them, but I think all of these are great. Remember, we're all volunteers, and we try to do the best, and we try to get people on as best we can. And I think that everyone is real eager. I've talked to every single one of these appointees, and they're very eager and very dedicated to our community. So I hope you will all agree that this is a great group of people. So unless anybody has any particular questions, I'd take the vote.
I have a question. There's applications for, I think, just 3 of the appointees, and I'm assuming that's because they're new appointees, and the others are being recommended to be, continue their service, which makes sense. I would ask that we don't have to do it necessarily this time, but in the future, that for those who are being recommended to continue on commissions, that we are able to see the number of terms and years that they've served, because I think that's helpful. You know, we like to have a balance of experience, and institutional knowledge is really important on our commissions, but it's also important to have fresh perspective and different opinions. And I think it helps us with the transparency to see how long someone has already served on a commission, so that we can sort of make sure that we have that balance.
Okay. Well, we'll take that under consideration. But I mean, I think all of these, remember, they're all residents. They all try their best. They bring a lot of knowledge. Some of them bring more than others. So, I mean, if you don't particularly like somebody that you feel should be, then I'd vote no. But
I absolutely agree that they're, I respect their everyone's volunteering as we are here, and actually most of the people around this table have been on commissions. And again, as I said a minute ago, I'm not saying that we should pull any of these. I would like in the future that I think it would enhance our, the information that we have to be able to. We have got the new applications, and then if we can see for someone who's being suggested as reappointment, if we can see, how many terms and years that they've been serving already.
Sure. We can do that.
Thank you.
Be careful, it's my appointment. So
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take it under consideration now. So let's
Understood.
let's take the vote.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yep, super, thank you. So let's move on to the last piece of business, which is the Keystone Park stormwater variation request. So
Make a motion to approve a variation to section 4-13-1 of the Village Code at Keystone Park.
Second.
Good evening. I will make my part here short. Todd Abrams is here representing the Park District, so he'll go into a little more detail in a minute about what's going on. But by way of brief background, as you all know, I'm sure, Keystone Park is under some renovation currently. One of the requirements that they have to implement on that site is stormwater detention. So the northeast corner of the site, right by Lake Street and the railroad embankment, there's a kind of a carved out detention basin. And all the site stormwater will flow through that basin and through a restrictor structure. Restrictor structure is just a way of saying that the pipe gets really small as it's heading out, slows the water down, backs up into that pond, gives our sewer system some relief during a heavy rain event. The water sits on site a little bit longer and slowly drains into our system. Our municipal ordinance requires that restrictor structure, which is a manhole, be constructed a certain way. It's been in our ordinance for quite some time, and we did some ordinance revisions a few years ago, and it stayed in there. The Park District is asking for a variance from that requirement. Instead of constructing the quote-unquote baffle wall system that is required in our ordinance, they're seeking a variance to construct a plate restrictor with, I believe, a debris hood over it as well. So it's all very technical. I tried my best to kind of walk through with some pictures and just visual examples of what we're talking about, but certainly I'm going to let Todd come up and go through his spiel. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm sure Todd and we're not going anywhere. Happy to answer anything that you guys have.
Great.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening. My name's Todd Abrams. I'm a principal engineer at WT Group. We did the civil engineering for this project. I thought Jeff did a really good job explaining the situation. I think he also included a letter in the board packet that talked a little bit about, showed some examples of the individual structures, and then also added that the structure that we're asking for a variance for has actually been installed. That's kind of a long story, but the initial design included the structure that we were requesting a variance for. I'd like to say, we're asking for a variance because the structure has been installed, but it's actually by being allowed to install this structure, it makes the area surrounding the ball field and the batting cage a lot more usable because we can put it at a lower elevation. And in a sense, if we were to put in this larger baffle wall structure, it'll create a tripping hazard and make the area a little bit less usable. So in a way, this structure going in as it did really kind of improved the usability of the park and the surrounding areas. The other thing I'll add is the same amount of detention, the same water quality benefit, and then the same release rate will be provided with this structure. So all of the stormwater benefits are included.
Okay.
Essentially, that's it. If there's any questions,
yep.
I did bring some exhibits too. I can go into a little bit more detail if you'd like.
I just have a question as to why were we putting in the other one? What's the difference in benefits between the two? If this one is actually creates a better, usability of the fields. Like, why was the recommendation made to do the other one anyway? I'm just curious. I mean, it's kind of done, so there's not much we could do about it. But
it's not. I'm sorry, Todd. If I can, it's not necessarily a recommendation. Our code requires the baffle wall restrictor that.
Okay.
And that was what was the improved plan, and the other system was put in place. So it's not usability wasn't necessarily a part of the review. We're talking strictly from a engineering stormwater
So you're
perspective.
asking
So
to
what's the
change
difference?
code, so we can put in this.
No, this what we're effectively doing is the board is voting whether to permit the system that was put into place to stay there, as opposed to being removed and replaced with the code mandated system.
And again, I go back to what is the difference between the, like why is our code one way? Just what's the difference between the two?
Sure, I can answer that a little bit.
Thank you.
The baffle wall structure, it's a bigger structure, and to Todd's point, it requires just a little more space vertically and horizontally. So the area around it essentially would be more mounded, just to provide the vertical space within the structure that the baffle wall requirement, needs. So from a usability standpoint, absolutely. From a maintenance standpoint, a baffle wall structure is larger. Debris, anytime you get into a restrictor structure, debris clogging it is always the concern. And what happens if that restriction, that smaller hole gets clogged up? Where does the water go? When a baffle wall structure, it can build up within that structure, flow over that wall, and continue to flow out all below grade. In a case where you've got a plate restrictor with just a hole in it, things are going to back up. It's going to back up into the pond. And to Todd's point, because we've had some email exchange over the last couple of weeks as we've been discussing this, there is an overland flow pattern on site, which means that if the pond, so if this restrictor is allowed to stay in place and the water continues to back up, you would notice that within the pond, because the pond would continue to build up and frankly just not drain out as quickly as it normally would. But even if it built up to the point where it was overflowing its bank is designed to kind of control that overflow through a designed area down the path and out to Lake Street. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Todd. So there's still a component where there's kind of a belt and suspenders approach here, but the baffle wall structure, I assume whomever put it in the ordinance years and years ago intended it to be kind of the standard that we'd like to achieve. This is a park district. We know they're not going anywhere from a maintenance standpoint. They're kind of here to stay, so I'm not too concerned about that. There's just going to be a difference if that restrictor gets clogged. There's going to be a difference in what happens next. It's not that I think they wouldn't treat it or figure out what the problem is and go in and unclog it kind of thing. It's just that's not something most people would see or notice if a baffle wall structure were in place.
Okay. I have another question, Jeff. And I'm not so worried about the park district. They're a sister agency or friend over here, so I'm not worried about them. But if this ordinance stays in place or the code stays in place, is it going to affect others? And meaning if someone takes advantage of it, or in other words, what I'm trying to say is if there's a problem with what we are asking for now, or, should we change it? Or you know what I mean? Should we change the code if there's a problem, or is there no problem? I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say.
Fair enough. I would make the argument that if you said what's the, ideally what kind of restrictor structure would you put in place each time, I would say a baffle wall structure. Gives you a little more room, gives you a little more room to work, maintain it, things like that. So that, to me, that's still a standard that I think is worth maintaining.
Okay.
In this case, I don't think I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. But if we're going to adopt a standard, I think that's a good standard to have in our ordinance.
Okay.
So the path over the pond then goes to Lake Street. So because let's be honest, we spent a lot of time talking about water and rain and sewers, and so what's the capacity at that point on Lake Street to take care of this if we have one of these crazy floods?
It's already where the water's going, so it's just going to go over ground and find the next catch basin in the Lake Street curb instead of going underground from that pond to that same pipe. But it's not going into a different place. It's not going to a different pond. It's not going to flood anybody differently than it would have flooded before. It's all going to the same place, it's just getting there in a different manner.
So, with the baffle, it sounded like the water would move more quickly away, so it wouldn't pool as long. Is that correct?
In the instance where the restrictor hole was clogged.
Yeah.
So under normal conditions, in either case, if what's been installed were in place versus a baffle wall, an ideal code required structure were in place, theoretically, to Todd's point, the restriction is the same, the outflow is the same. So if neither one of them were clogging up, both would be flowing out into the sewers in Lake Street at the same rate.
But with the wall, it's meant so that it doesn't.
In case it got clogged, exactly.
What does that mean for the synthetic ball field then? And I'm wondering if we had conversations around that and this, because I know there was a lot of discussion around even having the synthetic ball field. So now having water underneath that's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, go ahead.
We are actually providing detention for the synthetic turf field as part of this project. It was something that had to be recouped because I'm getting really technical here, but when we permitted the synthetic turf field, we didn't need to provide detention for it because we didn't go over a certain threshold. So the synthetic turf field is being detained. But one thing I would mention above and beyond what Jeff said, which I totally agree with, is, and I've got an exhibit. I don't know if everybody can see it, but
yeah,
this is the
holy cow
structure we're talking about. This little circle here.
There's no way.
It drains to a sewer, a 6-inch sewer, a very small sewer that goes into Lake Street. So, in most instances, we would still have the same overflow that we're talking about during a heavy rain, because the downstream sewer, if it was to go over that weir structure in the baffle, it doesn't have the capacity. So, I mean, it's almost going to act the same way, except the maintenance is going to be more difficult with the structure that's installed, as Jeff kind of described.
So the topography of the park then is to this area?
Yes.
So to your point is anything that's sitting, it's not going to go underneath the field. It's going to go across the field and go right into the drain.
Correct, the detention basin.
It doesn't drain through the synthetic. It goes across the synthetic.
Yeah, but where the synthetic stops.
Right, but I mean that's the way the topography is. So everything's going to flow to this point. So to your point on it going underneath the field, it won't go underneath the field. It'll stay on top of the field and continue on to the detention area.
Well, yeah. So there must be some reason, because they had to include detentions for the synthetic field. Is there any way that we can enhance this so that, like, add something to it so we're getting something, even, because we're missing out on this baffle wall?
I would say we are getting an area that the park patrons are going to be able to use. There's not going to be I'll show you, maybe if I show you what one of these structures looks like. For sitting down here. This is what a baffle wall structure looks like. It's a 72-inch structure. The reason I'm saying it needs to be raised is because this is the baffle wall we're talking about. The height of this baffle wall needs to be at the height of the top of the detention pond. So when that pond fills up, it has to have space to overflow here and stay inside of this structure. And on top of this structure, you need space for that water to go over. And then you've got an 8-inch concrete slab, and then you have those manhole that sits on top of that concrete plate. So all that thickness is going to be sitting up.
Right, but there's a reason
So
for
it's a
it.
cleaner look. It's basically that's what we're getting out of it.
A cleaner look, and you've got your main entrance to the ball field.
Mm-hmm.
You got a batting cage. You've got this area that I believe is probably going to be used for practice. People getting ready to go up to bat. So I mean, not having a big 2-inch mound, or potentially these rims are going to stick out of the ground and be a tripping hazard, I think is a big benefit we're talking about.
So, Bob said something a minute ago that we talk a lot about water here, and I think we've learned that our climate's getting wetter and wetter. We're expecting more rainfall, and we've got a ball field or a park that now has one synthetic field, and I wouldn't be surprised if the park district wanted to add more synthetic surface area. And the synthetic surface area does not absorb the water the way a natural field would, and so that creates more water runoff. This device is already in, and so you're asking for a variance to allow the device to stay. If we find that it's not working the way it should and that we're having more runoff, can we get an agreement from the park district to change it out for the more optimal baffle?
So the only caveat I would add to that is that, again, under ideal conditions, as long as maintenance weren't an issue, it's going to operate no differently than the required structure. So if there's no debris getting in there, clogging up the plate restrictor that has been installed already, the village is not losing out on anything. It's not providing less detention. It's not providing more water into the sewer system. The stormwater detention, the rate of release, all the things that would adversely impact the village's infrastructure not being affected. The only concern that I would have down the road is maintenance if that plate restrictor were to get clogged. In that case, again, things get wonky, but a baffle wall restrictor could still get clogged as well. The overflow just, again, is still underground. You don't see it. There isn't much of a tangible difference in terms of getting something for giving something. The village isn't really losing anything by this structure being left to remain in place. It's just not as ideal as what the ordinance requires.
So Jeff, I mean, in your professional opinion, I mean, you've given us both what's the pros and cons of it. What would you recommending that we provide the variance, because it seems to be, first it gives the park district what they need, and secondly, it doesn't adversely affect the village-wide water detention issue.
Yeah, and Todd had some good valid points about the mounding around those the structure lids would create a bit of an undulation near the sidewalk area, so kids walking off the sidewalk might stumble over that could be problematic. So there is some kind of offset benefit to leaving the structure in place. Again, my only concern from a professional standpoint is ongoing maintenance. And so I don't disagree, Trustee Brennan, with, if this is a problem then down the road, I would defer to the village attorney on how that all works. But the qualifier I would add is that it's not, if we notice we're getting more runoff than the other situation, there's no way we're going to know that. The project's designed the same way in either case. It would be a matter of, if we see the pond continuously overflowing at grade, then maybe we would require a different structure to be put in, because if the pond continues to overflow at grade, that means that the current structure is constantly getting clogged and not maintained.
Right.
So that would be the only circumstance where I think that makes sense, but I do think that approach would make sense.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa. Did you?
I was just going to say one thing though. Also, wouldn't another reason why it might overflow is because the pipe isn't big enough for the sewer.
But the restrictor that's going into it is even smaller than that.
Mm-hmm.
So by design, it is supposed to back up.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
It would have to be a pretty substantial rain event for that pipe to make it a bigger backup. But those are going to be very rare instances where that would occur.
So Mike, you're here. Maybe you can, Mike Grant, president of the Park District. Maybe you could address this. As Jeff said, the main issue that he has from his professional opinion is the maintenance of this and the clogging of it. So what kind of, and I know you have to talk to your board, but what kind of commitment can the Park District give us that this is going to be regularly maintained, or if it, for any reason, it can't be maintained, that we have to look at an alternative?
The board and the staff are committed to making sure it's working properly and unclogged at that.
were to happen. But one issue is that swale.
Jeff,
You
can
might
you
wanna
give him
get
the
to
microphones?
yeah.
Because
Like-
otherwise it's
no,
not
no,
recorded.
No, it's Mike. Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Is that better?
Yeah. Well, yeah. They can hear it. Go ahead. I mean,
we
it's
good?
Yep.
Okay. Should I repeat?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
The Park District staff and the board are committed to making sure that the technology that's in place is good and it's going to work. There happens to be a clog, staff will get it unclogged. The swale that we were required to put in that wasn't there before will be used to take runoff from the tennis courts. The topography of that corner of the park is such that where this manhole is and the technology, it's a higher mound in between the softball field and the tennis courts and the swale. That swale is mostly taking runoff around the swale and from the tennis courts. That used to be a swamp when the old tennis courts were in place. That won't be there anymore. The water will run off into the swale, and the two drains that are there, plus the manhole and technology that's there, will slowly put that water in the storm system. I doubt, we were talking about runoff of that swale. That thing is so huge. Don't know, but I doubt that thing would ever come near overflowing the edge. The softball field is a different drainage system than that swale and tennis court area of the park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, I think what was
anything else?
Yeah, but I don't know if we're gonna want to debate that because we're assuming you're building something that could manage a water event. I think the question becomes, will the park district agree on this variance that you will maintain it? I don't know, Jeff, what the word might be. Maintain it in such a condition that it.
Jeff has had discussions with staff already.
Okay. All right. So should we put that in the?
Is that true? You've had discussions?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to know.
So I've expressed the concern. I mean, I think it would be appropriate if that is a concern of you all as well.
Yes.
Just to, if you're thinking of approving it, to perhaps approve it conditional upon the fact that, in the instance that the village finds it necessary to replace the structure for the reasons we've stated, then I don't know what the trigger is, if we enter into a conversation or if we can just outright require it down the road, but some sort of condition upon the approval.
Yeah, so I would phrase the condition as a condition that the park district regularly maintain the structure. And that way, if it's not being regularly maintained, that condition would be violated, and then we'd have to take future action based on that.
But also an incidence when
Sure.
there's a huge rainfall.
And
too,
what
so
is
that's not regular. It's
define
as-
regular? It would be. I think it would behoove the village, if you're thinking of approving the variance, and I'm not advocating that we don't, but if there's a way to condition it upon, in the determination of the village, if this becomes a problem that we determine to require a resolution, that the village can require it be replaced. I mean, I don't know if that's feasible.
Yeah, I mean, we can put that language in. In reality, it would involve negotiations down the road anyway, because the park district, without some sort of a court resolution, you're not going to just, if the park district doesn't agree to that, or there's a dispute, it's going to have to be resolved somehow, but that language could be put in. I just think, to your point, Jeff, the point about we're dealing with a fellow unit of local government is an important caveat from a different situation, and that they have their own system, they're elected as well, and they have to maintain their property. And the village board, although it has the authority to require them to put in certain structures, it also has the obligation to consider a variation where it's in furtherance of some public purpose that the park district is moving toward, and the safety of the people that use the park is an appropriate way to give some flexibility there, I think. But I think that a condition in place that the park district agrees to do regular maintenance, and of course it's public property, so the village can go inspect it whenever it wants. You don't have to schedule anything or give reasonable notice. You just walk on there and look at it and see, is is this being maintained properly? And they'd be subject to the same enforcement action if it wasn't. That's my thought.
Yeah. Which I think is where we should land. It, it maybe just add that they maintain it per our village code.
So, as the motion reads now,
Yep.
Is this a variance for just this one particular spot, or is it all of Keystone Park?
It's just specific to this
Yeah.
Specific to this structure.
installation. Yes.
To this particular structure.
Thanks.
So Lance, what would you recommend? Just what you said earlier, I think kind of captures what I think
Right.
the trustees were saying.
Yeah, the
And Jeff.
motion would be to approve a variation to section 4-13-1 of the village code at Keystone Park for the restrictor structure at issue and conditioned on the park district providing regular inspections and maintenance of the structure to assure that it's functioning at its required capacity. Does that make sense? Jeff, is that
Then he would have to-
language work?
Is that something you would have to check on? I mean, get approval for, or?
That could probably be best tabled to the board, but that's something that we're gonna do anyway as a staff function.
Yeah.
Check on fencing, check on.
Right, I think the park district has
Okay.
already indicated they've committed to
Right.
that.
Right. All right. Well then.
Well, I have something I need to say this just to get it off my chest. I don't know how we got here again, because this is at least the second time that I've been on this board that a group, an organization, or someone has come forward and said, I'd like a variance on some work that I've already done. Where did we miss this? So what goes on with the inspection? I mean, this board is now going to have a reputation as if you put it in, you go and plead your case in front of the board, they're going to let it go, and there's no repercussions on it. I'm not picking on the park district because I think what the work they've done out there, if you've gone over there, it looks beautiful. It's going to be great and everything, but there's something missing here. So I'd like to know what it is, and you don't have to answer it today.
No, I think it's a good question.
I'd like to know
I mean,
because
what happened?
I'm going to go put a 5-story garage up, and then I'm going to come back and say, I spent a lot of money on this. Let's just leave it alone. So can we just figure out what's going on with this stuff?
Sure. Yes,
Thanks.
absolutely. I think that's a very fair point. I think that's part of the reason why staff wasn't comfortable after this was discovered that this installation did not meet the plans. Staff did not feel comfortable going against our recommendation and the approved plans. That's why it's before the board here as that kind of stopgap to prove the board doesn't need to approve that variation and can stick to the village code. But we'll certainly revisit to make sure that our inspections capture that in the future.
Well, I think better yet, I think it's not only capturing, I think it's almost elevating it to this board.
Right.
Like, I think this is what Bob is saying is if you find that, something's happened and it's going on, then elevate it to the board. And we could, I hate to say it, Mike, would have to stop you and, restart it. If we knew that it was happening before you started it, right? I think is that fair enough, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. So, anyway, that's where we're at though, Bob. So, we have an option not to approve it, but I don't know if that makes much sense. So, it's up to you. As long as we kind of put stipulations, as Jeff and Matt and others have said, that they maintain it, and if not, then they have to reconsider it.
Right.
Redoing it.
I just want to say I completely agree with Bob's comments, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing these up.
Yeah, thank you,
Right.
Erica. I agree with that.
Right.
I don't know how we got there, but we're here. That's I mean, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but we could. I don't think that's the intent of the board here. So,
Right.
I guess we're just saying next time, just
Try and catch
unless you
it
felt like you
before.
tried and it didn't happen.
Right.
I don't want to you tell me, Matt and
Mm.
Jeff.
in terms.
Tell you
I
what,
mean,
I'm sorry.
Well, where you thought it went wrong? I mean, where are we? You know, I think that's what Bob is
Yeah,
asking.
and I can provide a little background. I
Yeah.
mean, on a project like this, and a larger project, the Lake and Lathrops of the world, you know, the village inspectors aren't out there 8 hours a day watching everybody work, right? You even if you're building a house, we come in and we do one rough framing inspection when you're done with all rough framing. If one element of the rough framing is off, an inspector would say you need to fix this, or if it's an ordinance requirement, you don't have a choice, or you need to go seek a variance for it. We don't have internal stopgaps because we don't have inspectors going out there intermittently throughout there. We kind of have almost like a final inspection for each of those phases of construction. Obviously, things are still under construction over there. The Park District brought this to our attention because it's an ordinance requirement. That's why it's in front of you here this evening. To try to catch these things as they occur immediately on all sites throughout town that are under construction would require a lot more staffing just to be present a lot more frequently.
But I submit to you that the contractor knew exactly what they were doing.
Right.
And I can't speak to that.
Well, let's be honest. They put something in which was totally opposite of what was on the plan.
Right.
Okay,
Do we provide them a checklist? Like, these are things that, you know, the developer, the contractor, do they get a checklist to say, if you're going to do these things, these are things that you have to?
It's on the approved plans. I mean, ultimately, sometimes you go through 2, 3, 5 iterations of here are the plans. No, there you have to change these things. Here are the updated plans. No, you have to change those things. And at the end of the day, you get one set of approved plans from the village, and that's the approved set. So anything that deviates from that is just not approved. Now, a lot of those conditions don't meet the threshold of this, where it's a specific ordinance requirement on the specific type of installation, and maybe there's a little more flexibility to work with an applicant. In this case, we didn't have a choice. To Matt's point, this is an ordinance requirement flat out, so staff had no flexibility in addressing it. But there was an approved set of plans, and this particular structure was shown to be a baffle wall structure on the approved set, and a different structure was installed. So where along the lines that happened, from a staffing point, we just don't know. We weren't made aware of it until the Park District brought it to our attention. So I can't speak to the motives behind that.
I'm not breaking bad on the staff. Okay, I'm breaking bad on the fact that a contractor did something. He had an approved set of plans. He didn't do it. So that's what my hang-up is. Okay, and then that falls to the homeowner, or in this case, the Park District.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. And so, you know, don't want to break bad on the Park District, but they have people that are running the parks, and they should be doing it. So they're not good. They're not good partners with us, and another good unit of government. Okay. So they're doing stuff that now puts us in a position that we have to approve something that we may or may not have done based on your recommendation.
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, I think because of all of that, I think we put more restriction on it just to protect the village. I mean, what we do here, and that is, you know, we provide guidance in an ordinance for a reason, right? So is there any can we, Lance? I mean, maybe go through that one more time so that so the trustees know what possibility that we.
I sort of like my language, and I don't know that I could repeat it. We have a recording of it, and if the other trustees listen to it, and you thought that summarized, then I would say to amend the motion to take that language. We can find it and get it and put it in, if that's okay, because I think I hit it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out. Okay. All right. So based on somebody listening to the audio, and coming back with the.
Well, I mean, I could try to say it again, but I think I got it. I got all the points. And again, by making it a condition, it could be revoked, you know, if it were an extraordinary case.
Okay. Is everyone good with that? Yep.
Sure.
All right. So I'd ask, let's take the vote.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Okay, passes. Very good. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
Yep. All right. So we'll move on to executive session. So if I can get a motion to move into executive session.
Okay, move to enter into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11 and 5 ILCS 120/2C1 to discuss pending litigation and the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the village, and the village board will adjourn after executive session and will not return to open session.
Second.
So, take a vote on that.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Right.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, so we'll just take a recess for a couple minutes.
Okay.